The music's always wonderful to start a meeting off with, so thank you very much. Hi, everyone. It is actually still 7:15 on the dot. Gosh, for May already, our May board meeting. I know, right, Tina?
Right.
So welcome to our May board meeting for San Gabe Pomona Regional Center. And let's go ahead and take a roll call, please.
Julie Chetney.
Here.
Jay Dixit. She's not going to be here today. Karen Sarsa Diaz, I. Is Karen here?
Oh, just popping on.
She's here? Okay. Bill Stewart.
Here.
Krish Lancer.
Here.
Trish Gonzalez.
Here.
Richard Centeno.
Here.
Joseph Wong.
Here.
Ina Wright.
Here.
Happy birthday, Tina.
Thank you.
Bruce Crickshank.
Here.
Philip Loy.
Here.
Sam Yee.
Here.
And Paula Rodarte. You have a quorum.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's take a moment to review the agenda. Do we have any amendments to tonight's agenda? For what I don't actually, so that's good. All right, not hearing or seeing any. Let's go on to the minutes for, for both March and April, our two meetings. We had those in our packets and available to us electronically. Do I have a motion to accept? We'll start with March of 2024.
I'll make the motion. Accept March.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second?
I will second that, Ms. Julie.
Thank you so much, Philip. All right, any discussion?
A second.
Oh, hold on for the next set of minutes there, Richard, okay? I'll hold on to that for the April minutes, okay? All right, all in favor of accepting the March minutes as written, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to the minutes for the April board meeting. Do I have a motion to accept those April minutes as written?
I have a motion.
Thank you, Tina. Do I have a second? Richard.
Here, second.
Thank you very much. All right, any discussion with regard to our April minutes? Not hearing or seeing any. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Let's move along. Do we have any public input tonight?
Yes, we do. We have Carl Argila.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Carl, the floor is yours.
Erica, am I audible again?
Yes, sir.
That's great. Thank you so much again, board. As you know, my name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Cavan Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. And as usual, tonight's San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center board meeting, including my comments, are being recorded under the provisions of Bagley-Keene Act and will be posted for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net. And we are up to date on posting of all the video recordings now for well over a year. I'll put the URL in chat for your reference. Again, I do want to acknowledge the assistance I received from Jesse Romero for regarding the self-determination program for my son, Gerardo Argila. As I've stated before, it's always good to be able to maintain an amiable professional working relationship with people at the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. But once again, I have to request, board, that you terminate your conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. And this month is a little different than prior months because since I was last addressing the board, your agency has filed a declaration with probate court opposing my petition to terminate your conservatorship of my son. I can only hope that I never expected that you would do something as reprehensible as that under the administration of Dr. Weller and this new board. I hope that any parent hearing my voice tonight or listening to my voice on the recordings of these meetings will take note that no matter how consumer friendly the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center may appear to be, ultimately, they have the power to become your child's conservator and ruin your life. By the way, board, a few leftover items that have still not been addressed. You're fully aware of the class action lawsuit that was filed against you on behalf of my children and 4,998 other deaf clients. You signed a settlement agreement. Part of that settlement agreement was that you'd provide a service coordinator for deaf clients, and that service coordinator is Sylvia Monod. And for reasons unknown, you have changed my son, Cavan Argila's service coordinator to Chrissy Heiler, no experience in working with the deaf community. The Lanterman Act requires that service coordinators have cultural and linguistic affinity with their clients. You've taken no actions to address that. And I'd like to remind the board once again that last June 27th of 2023, during a mediation session, Dr. Weller agreed that the service agency will attempt to have claimant assigned a deaf service coordinator. That still hasn't happened. So that's it for another month, board. As usual, I am requesting that the official minutes of this board meeting accurately state that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. Thank you again for your patience, board.
Thank you very much. We will be moving right along to the first of our standing items in our agenda, which is for the Executive Finance Committee and the financial report from Dara Meixel.
Excuse me. Good evening. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Good evening, President Chutney, members of the board, regional center staff, DDS, and members of the community. Tonight, I am presenting the financial statement, which comprise of operations and purchase of service payments through March 31st, 2024. Our E1 allocation in operation for fiscal year 23-24 is just over 49 million, with projected expenditures of over 48 million. Our year-to-date expenditures are over 30 million, with projected expenditures of 17.7 million, which leaves 1.4 million unencumbered in operations as of date. Our Family Resource Center, our foster grandparent senior companion, CPP, and DC closure and ongoing workload was fully allocated in the E1 at 2.9 million, and we anticipate utilizing all of those funds by the end of the fiscal year, resulting in a zero balance. Does anyone have any questions in terms of operations before I move to the next slide? Okay. Moving to the next slide. This is our purchase of service. Again, payments through April 18th to March 31st. In our POS, in the E1 allocation is just over 420, well over 424 million. The current month's expenditures amount to just over 39.7 million, which brings the year-to-date expenditures of 285 million. The remaining projected expenditures and late bills are over 136 million, leaving an unencumbered amount in POS of over 2.6 million. In restricted POS funds, CPP, CRDP, and HCBS, we received some funding in the E1. There is showing a negative balance, but we anticipate receiving those funds fully in the E2 allocation. Does anyone have any questions regarding our purchase of service? Okay, so moving on to the next slide. These are the details in both operations and purchase of service, which drives the two first slides. And all of this is included in your board packet should you want to spend more time reviewing these documents. And this is our statement of financial position. And the graph of the financial position and our POS and operation surplus as of date in graph form. Does anyone have any questions for me? Let me stop sharing my slide.
Thank you very much, Dara.
Thank you.
As a reminder to our board members, the financial report was presented earlier this month to the Executive Finance Committee, and the committee did go ahead and approve that financial report. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move along. There are some contracts that once again were reviewed by the Executive Finance Committee and voted and approved to move forward to present to the entire board for full approval. So we have Tim Travis up for those.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, President Chutney, board members, community members, DDS, and regional center staff. I'd like to present summaries for 5 service agreements this evening in the order listed in this evening's agenda for the board's review and consideration for approval. The first service agreement summary is with Round Trip Transportation for transportation services and a transportation aid. Round Trip provides curb-to-curb transportation services for individuals from their home to their day or work program. They are currently providing services to approximately about 200 individuals, 56 of those individuals usually utilizing wheelchairs. The vendor currently has 12 routes in operation. This contract also includes funding of a conditional fuel stipend and, again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, those transportation aid services. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration for this service agreement.
All right, thank you, Tim. Okay, so we're going to start at the top. Do we have a motion to approve the contract for Round Trip Transportation?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Trish. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. All right, any discussion or questions for Tim with regards to this contract? Okay, all right, not hearing or seeing any. All in favor of approving the contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. All right, what's next?
All right, thank you. The second service agreement summary is with People's Care Developmental Services, LLC, for an enhanced behavioral service home called People's Care Viola Home. Enhanced behavioral support homes or service homes are licensed by Community Care Licensing and certified by the Department of Developmental Services to provide 24-hour non-medical care to individuals with developmental disabilities who require enhanced behavioral supports, staffing, and supervision in a home-like setting. This model serves a maximum capacity of 3 individuals. These individuals that live in this home may have severe behavioral challenges. They may have health-related conditions that require restricted or non-restricted healthcare plans. The adults to be considered for admission into this home are those individuals that may be residing in a state developmental center, state hospital, penal facility, locked mental health facility, or residing out of state. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration for this service agreement.
Okay, thank you so much. People's Care, another one. They're good. All right, do we have a motion to approve this contract as presented?
I will make the first motion to accept this contract, Ms. Julie.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, any discussion or questions for Tim? I have a question, actually. It's just more of just for my own information. The difference between a restricted and non-restricted healthcare plan, just for pure curiosity.
So community care licensing has specific regulations called Title 22 regulations, and they have identified 11 conditions that require a restricted healthcare plan. That could be insulin-dependent diabetes, inhalation, coleostomy, ileostomy. Apologize for those terminologies. And so those require a very specific healthcare plan. Other non-restricted healthcare plans could be, something related to an allergy or some other type of condition that staff need to be aware of and trained on in order to be able to react to that. Not necessarily they're required by licensing, but very important for the staff to be knowledgeable about signs and symptoms and treatment plans for those particular individuals. And again, that's to protect that health and safety of those folks.
Got it. Makes complete sense. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions for Tim with regards to this contract for People's Care? Viola? All right. All in favor of accepting this contract or approving this contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Chris. All right.
All right, great. The third service agreement summary is with Career Assessment and Place Center Incorporated, or CAPSI. This is for supported living services. Supported living services consist of a broad range of services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities who, through their individual program plan, choose to live in homes they themselves own or lease in the community. Supported living services may include assistance with selecting and moving into a home, choosing those personal attendants and housemates, acquiring household furnishings, those common daily living activities and emergencies, becoming a participant member in community life, and managing those personal financial affairs as well as other supports. These services help individuals exercise meaningful choice and control in their daily lives, including where and whom they live. Supported living is designed to foster individual nurturing relationships, working towards those long-range personal goals. And because these may be lifelong concerns, supported living services are offered for as long and as often as needed. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to approve this contract as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Oh, I think I see Tina's hand. Do I? I think I do. Okay. All right. Any questions for Tim with regards to this contract? All right. All in favor of approving it as presented, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, 3 down.
All right. Yes. The fourth service agreement summary with Monreal Management Incorporated for their A&M for home care. This is a specialized residential facility for adults ages 18 and older. These adults are currently clients of the regional center. They may be diagnosed with an intellectual disability, excuse me, and intellectual development disability, and may also have a mental health diagnosis. Individuals referred to and residing in this home will have severe self-care deficits, severe behavioral challenges, and sensory impairments, such as hearing impairment. These individuals may also have a history of or currently are forensically involved. These homes are licensed by Community Care Licensing and then vendorized by the Regional Center. So unless the board has any questions, I'd like to ask for their consideration for this service agreement.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, do we have a motion to move to approve this contract as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Trish. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who is that? Karen, gotcha. Okay, you didn't pop up right away, so I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tim with regards to this contract for this particular facility? All right.
Okay, great. The last service agreements.
I haven't called for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
okay.
apologize. I got started coughing. I got caught up. I'm sorry.
Happens. All in favor of approving this contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
I just always wait for Chris. Thank you. All right. Now, Tim, please.
I am so sorry.
No worries.
The last service agreement summary is with the American Developmental Program for their Rising Hill Enhanced Behavioral Service Home 1. This is a startup contract with this particular provider. We received funding this year from the Department of Developmental Services to develop an enhanced behavioral service home to meet the needs of individuals, again, as we talked a little bit earlier, with those severe behavioral challenges. They may also have that health-related condition that does require that restricted or non-restricted healthcare condition. The adults considered for the admission of this particular home will be those individuals coming out of different state developmental centers, whether that be Porterville or Canyon Springs, another state hospital, penal facility, locked mental health facility, or residing out of state. Individuals do receive that 24-hour non-medical care. They receive those enhanced behavioral supports, that enhanced staffing and supervision in that home-like setting in the community. This particular home will have a capacity for 4 individuals and will be licensed by the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division. So unless there are any questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration for this service agreement.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve this contract as presented?
Philip
I
is
move
raising.
we approve the contract as presented. Sorry,
Okay,
Trish.
that's okay. Do we have a second?
I will second it, Julie.
There we go. I saw you the first time. Thank you, Philip. Okay. Any questions for Tim with regards to this contract? I do. Just a curiosity. So this home isn't up and running yet, or is this to get it up and running?
So we get funded in 2 separate installments. One, these particular enhanced behavioral services homes are owned by a housing development organization. That is with Brilliant Corners. So last year, we presented the particular service agreement for the purchase of the home. This is funding that we receive in the next fiscal year to, as to your point, to select that provider to operate that particular home. So these funds are being utilized to, start purchasing the furniture of the home, recruiting the staff, doing that transition, getting ready to get licensed, program design, and so forth. So again, these are funds that are approved by the department and then put into our budget. As Dara mentioned a little bit earlier, when we talk about that CPP, CRDP, these are those projects specifically related there. Now, I will say, President Chutney, typically we don't bring these contracts because they're not over that $250,000 threshold. 2024, we're going to start seeing that just because of the costs associated with that.
I think we talked a little bit about that at the Executive Finance Committee, right? Like that threshold of 250,000 just doesn't get what it used to get. So we're seeing a few more. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you very much. Any additional questions for Tim?
Yeah, Tim, I have a question. You mentioned that we fund people who live out of state. Could you go into that?
Yeah, and so there are times where individuals may be residing out of state. The department has actively, actually pre-pandemic, the department really worked very intensely to bring those individuals that were residing out of state in very specialized programs, whether that be Texas, Florida, Devereaux, you may have heard Bruce. We used to have Devereaux, Santa Barbara, and they operate very, very specialized programs outside of the state. So very, very rare occasions. The Welfare Institutions Act requires the director of the Department of Developmental Services to approve anybody residing out of the state. And then we have to, as a regional center, work actively to bring them back. At this point in time, to my knowledge, we don't have anybody residing out of state. But because this is a statewide resource, there may be a sister regional center that may have an individual that would be appropriate for that home, and we could potentially serve that individual.
So it would be a state that can provide supports or services that we don't have the resources for.
Correct. Oftentimes we'll see maybe an individual that has, let's say, Prader-Willi syndrome. There's a very well-known program in the state of Wisconsin that really it provides that intensive short-term service. And then once they're ready to, move back to our state after they've worked through that, they can come back. It's really not something that occurs as often because we have been able to develop these services and supports, these enhanced behavioral service homes. In the past, we've talked about community crisis homes. So we really are trying to, get these different models so that individuals can stay here in California and not have to leave their families.
Okay.
Good question. Okay. Any additional questions for Tim? All right. All in favor of approving this contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you very much. All right. I think we may have gotten through all of them. What do you think?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our Community Relations and our Legislative Advisory Committee with our chair of that committee, Karen.
Hi, everyone. We actually had a really great meeting last week, and we were able to find out the latest legislative news, which came from our executive director, of course, Jesse, and learned all about all the upcoming events that are happening, including one of the major ones at the end of the month, at the rally that's going to be coming up. I'm sure someone's going to bring it up later, so I don't want to go into that too much. But we really had a really good meeting with everyone, and next month we are actually not going to be able to meet because it is the day of Juneteenth, celebration of Juneteenth. So we do encourage other people we encourage everyone to, of course, attend the other community meetings that will be happening, and we will resume again back in July, which will then be actually the new schedule. So we will be right ahead of this executive meeting of the board at that point. So that is pretty much it. And I turn it over back to Julie.
Thank you, Karen. Wonderful stuff happening. All right, let's go over to the Advisory Committee for Individuals Served and Their Families. Philip, would you be comfortable giving us a bit of an update as to what went on in your committee? You don't have to.
But actually, I need help from Erica.
Okay.
Yeah. I can help, Bill, if you want me to. I can do that.
Absolutely.
Then Jesse. Dr. Jesse.
Okay. I'm more than happy to. Nice to see everybody in the committee this evening. We went over our routine updates, and we had a presentation this evening from our training department. We recently established a training and organizational department to help support the growth of our organization. And so this committee got to kind of go over and meet the staff, all the great work that's been happening the past few months. So that was really the focus of this evening, along with updates around self-determination And then we also had some brief updates as it relates to our on-duty team that we're trying to implement here shortly to help with the responsiveness to our community. If people aren't getting calls back within 24 hours, having dedicated positions. So we were able to review that this evening as well. So a lot of just updates on the operations of the center. And I think it was a good meeting, good turnout. And Philip did an amazing job this evening as leading the committee. So shout out to Philip.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Let's go on to our vendor advisory committee with Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you, President Chetney and the members of the board. It's been a busy month of May for the vendors of the Regional Center. We started off the month on May 3rd or on May 2nd with our vendor advisory committee. And then on May 3rd, we did have the vendor job fair, which went, in my view, I think it went extremely well. We had a great turnout. We had 50 vendors that showed up and were able to promote their programs to potential hirees. So we're very excited about that and hoping to continue that on for the future. We've also been doing a lot of work assisting, excuse me, and helping to coordinate the Keep the Promise rally. Susan Strobel, who is also here tonight, has been integral in helping support that along with Yvonne Gratian. So I'm not sure, Jesse, if you're going to be speaking about that later on or if you'd like me to discuss it at all.
I'm totally open, Chris. I have it in the report for this evening, but if
Perfect.
Susan's here, I defer.
I don't know. Susan, would you like to discuss anything about it?
I'd just like to say that in your meeting materials, there's a copy of the flyer. We'd love for you to share it on your social media pages. There's also a copy of the letter that was signed by the legislators supporting us, as well as a request to please call the governor. I think that flyer is included too, isn't it, Yvonne?
It is.
Yeah. And we're going to have a meeting next Thursday or next Tuesday at 10 o'clock to talk about the logistics. If anybody has questions, you're welcome to join us for that.
And I'm sorry, Susan, there's also a copy of the press release in the materials.
The press release. And I know some of you have press contacts. We would love for you to share that with the press that you're in contact with. We would like to have good press coverage at the conference. We ordered about 230 t-shirts. They're pretty much sold out at this point. We just have a few left. So if that's any indication of the turnout we're going to have, that's pretty exciting. South Los Angeles Regional Center vendors are going to be joining us through Jesse's work. The Lanterman Coalition is sending about 100 people supposedly to join us. And the North Los Angeles Regional Center will be having a rally simultaneously to ours. So this is really, it looks like it's going to turn out the way that we hoped it would. It's important that the community know who we are. They know the people that are served by the regional center. They see our faces and don't forget the needs of our community and keep the promise of the Lanterman Act.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
I believe Sam has a question.
Yes, Sam.
I've been thinking about you for a while. I agree with the rally in the county. I don't know about the what's going on with almost the country. With all the protests about what's going on in the Middle East, the timing.
And I'm sorry, Sam. Do you mind repeating the last part?
don't you think that Tiny is a little bit off because with all the protests that going on?
The focus that's going on?
Yeah. Well, all the protests that going on right now about what going on in the Middle East. That will be overlooked.
About work?
Yeah, because everybody is talking about all the protests that going on now.
So you're saying that all the focus is about the work?
Yeah. About what's going on now in the Middle East.
Oh.
We all the protests about the Middle East that we might be overlooked.
And I'm so sorry, Sam. I'm not understanding the part about the work part.
I don't think it was work. Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you said was that there's a lot of focus right now on what's going on in the Middle East, and there's
got it.
What's going on here in our communities with our individuals. Was I correct?
Yeah. I'm worried that the press won't care about the rally because they are.
Oh, you think that the press won't care about the rally because they're focused on?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The protests that going on college campuses.
And what's going on college campuses?
Yeah. But
yeah, that is a risk. I mean, it is a risk, and that is possible. If something big breaks out, we might be pushed right out of any news story.
So
but I hope that that we, because we're going to have a positive spin and it's going to be a positive event, I'm hoping that we still get the coverage, Sam. But you're right, it is a risk, especially right now. You're absolutely right.
Can you hold off a little bit until we're going on get down a little bit?
Keep asking if we can hold off on the rally a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
You know what? I think if we had time, we would. The thing of it is we really want the governor to see us now before this budget is finalized. If we had more time, I totally agree. It would be great to do it later. But I feel like with the budget, it's going to be passed pretty soon. If we don't get out there now, we're just going to miss the opportunity.
I'm afraid that if we are out there now with everybody focused on something else, we still going to be overlooked. That's what I'm afraid of.
So you're afraid that it's going to be overlooked?
Yeah.
Got it.
And Sam, I share your concerns too. I think one of the benefits that we have is the work that ARCA has done and Jesse and many of the members of the regional centers across the state have done, that many other of the regional centers will also be participating in rallies on the same day. So I think that force of so many different groups of the same members getting together and advocating for the same things all at the same time on the same day sends a much larger message than just our one small group advocating for our region. I think it's a larger issue, and it hopefully will send a larger impact to the state and the legislature. So that's what we're hoping for.
I think too, just the fact that we have a city council member that's kind of helped us navigate things with the city of West Covina. He's going to be one of our speakers. And he himself has a disability, and so do two of his children. So he's been real great in terms of helping us work with the city. I don't think we need to worry about the police showing up or having any problems with our rally because it's going to be a peaceful situation. But I hear you, Sam. I hear you.
Okay. I'm the worried nobody will pay any attention now because what's going on in across the country.
We really need one person to pay attention, and that's the governor of California. So if we can get his attention, then we'll be okay.
Okay.
And if people cannot make it out to the rally, also highly encouraging to make the call directly to his office.
Please. Thank you, Sam.
That's a good point, though. Yeah.
Susan, was there anything else that you had to know? Yvonne?
That's it. Thank you.
No, I think Susan pretty much covered it. I think all the materials are in the folder, and if you have any questions in terms of logistical stuff that may be happening that day, feel free to give me a call. And we hope to see you all on the 31st.
Yes, absolutely.
In blue.
Oh yeah, we're in blue.
Yes, we're blue. So thank you again, Susan, for all your hard work on that, and thank you, Yvonne, and the Regional Center for everything that you're doing in support of Keep the Promise Rally. We very much appreciate it. The last vendor update that I have is we are coming up on our next term, so we will be doing interviews for many of our advisory committee members that are terming off. We're doing interviews on June 6th to replace many of our members, and that will be coming up, so we're very excited about bringing in a new group. We have about 4 members that will be interviewing for approximately 6 open positions and 1 that has already been selected who will be nominated in June's meeting. So we're excited about that. And that's the updates for the Vendor Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, a lot going on indeed. All right, let us turn our attention then to our Strategic Development Advisory Committee and our chair of that committee, Bruce.
Thanks, Julie. We have a board member who's completed his first 3-year term and is coming up for another term, Bill Stewart, who is our treasurer. And we would like, everybody knows Bill, so there's really nothing more to say. He's the best, we all know that. And I would like to hear a motion to approve Bill for another 3 years.
Okay. Can I make the motion?
Can I make the motion?
We all make the motion?
Yeah, okay, well, we got Trish. A second. Karen. Beautiful. Okay. All in favor of extending Bill's term for another 3 years, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Opposed.
Are you opposed, Tina?
Yeah. I agree.
Are you in favor or opposed?
Our favor.
In favor, okay.
Yeah.
All opposed? I see no one. And all abstentions? Okay, so it passes. Bill, you're on the hook for another 3 years, buddy.
Yay.
Okay, we had a meeting prior to this meeting to nominate a slate of officers for next year's board. And they would be, we have Julie Chetney returning as president, Karen Sarsa-Diaz-Ige as first vice president. The second vice president position is open temporarily, but we'll have someone slotted in there by the time of the election. Trish Gonzalez for secretary and Bill Stewart for treasurer. The election will be at our next board meeting, June 26th. We can still accept nominations according to the bylaws. A director may be nominated for an office only by the Strategic Development Advisory Committee in accordance with section 21.02, or by a written nomination signed by at least one director, listing the names of a total of 5 directors who support the nomination, and that is submitted to the board's executive assistant, Erica, at least 10 days before the election is to be held. So it'd have to be into Erica by the 16th. So anybody with a burning desire to seize power, it'd be interesting. We've never really had a real election, but it'd be interesting. And we have an opening for the second VP. So if you're interested, get into Erica by the 16th. At our last Strategic Development Committee, we had 2 people who we would like to nominate for committee positions. The first one is Jan Lin.
Okay.
She is. Jan is a doctor who works at Pomona Valley Hospital, an internist, and she has had 4 years of board member experience at the Valley Mountain Regional Center. We thought that she would, Jan is rather cerebral, and we thought that she would be a good fit for the Strategic Development Committee. So do I hear a motion to approve Jan Lin for this committee slot?
I'll make the motion, Bruce.
Thanks, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, all in favor of approving Jan Lin for a position with the Strategic Development Committee, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you. All opposed? Any opposed? Don't see it. Anyone abstaining? No? So Jan Lin is appointed and will begin in July, our July meeting. The next person for committee position is Jovenal Malonzo Jr. Jovenal is a retired businessman. He has a child who gets services from Sankey and is a very enthusiastic proponent of our regional center and the services. He also has a desire to give back by participating in board governance. Bill described Jovenal really well when he said he knows how to work a room, and he does that indeed. So I would like to nominate Jovenal for the people served and their families. Do I have a motion to approve him for this committee?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Trish. Is there a second?
I will second that, Bruce.
Who's that?
Philip.
Is that Richard?
Philip.
Oh,
Philip.
okay. Philip. Okay, Philip, thank you. Okay, so all in favor of appointing Jovenel Alonso to the Advisory Committee for People Served and Their Families, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? And anyone abstaining? Good. Okay, so Jovenel will be joining that committee, and it's good. We need more people in Advisory Committee for People Served and for the Legislative Committee. So we'll welcome him with open arms. That's about it from me. Turn it back to you, Julie.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Yes, we've been busy bees over in strategic development. And so thank you to everyone for accepting the recommendations for not only the fabulous bill, but also our two new committee members. We really were quite impressed with them, and we're very excited to have them on board with the start of the new fiscal year. My report tonight is going to be nice and short and sweet. I do have a couple of things that I want to review really quickly, but it's going to be easier if I show you. So I'm hoping someone might be able to give me the ability to share my screen. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. So the first thing is, just as a reminder, we really just kind of want to blast this out, and so everyone knows, not only the board and committee members that are directly involved, but also to anyone and everyone out in the community, because of course our meetings are open to the public. So starting with the new fiscal year, this board did approve a change back to the schedule that we had a little while ago that seemed to work a lot more effectively for board members, committee members, and staff alike. So this is in your board packet. It affects those following two committees: Community Relations, Legislative Advisory, and Strategic Development. So just really want that word to get out about that. Oh. All right. ARCA is coming up in June. Jesse and I will be going up to Sacramento. My gosh, 3 times in a row up to Sacramento. So we'll have more to report on that at our June meeting. But the guy who is he board president at Tri-Counties, Jesse? Mark? He is? Okay. And so Mark Wolf is board president up in Tri-Counties, but he is also the ARCA board president. And this guy, he's very charismatic. And when you hear what he used to do for a living, it'll make complete sense. He was a movie producer. And so he's been using all of his connections to produce animated videos about, there's a whole series about the HCBS final rule that we talked about not too long ago. But just this week, it went live. There's a new video all about joining a regional center board. I'm not going to play it because it's a little lengthy, but here it is right here. So you can see that it is once again in that very, it's easy on the eyes, it's engaging, it's easy to follow along. And it is 14 minutes, but it really does a great job of doing an overview of what regional centers are, the role of the board, and what it means to be a board member. So I'm hoping that, don't just ignore what the search history over there. Actually, let me put this in the chat, and then you can take a look at this at your leisure, because it really is really, really great. So the other thing I just wanted to talk with you about for just a few moments, because I really want to try and stay on schedule, is last month we had probably the most engaging board training that I've ever attended with Michelle Ware, our consultant who led us through our amazing strategic plan. And she specifically talked about board meetings, how to be more effective as a board, how to effectively design our meetings so that we are doing the best work that we can, that we're actually helping to drive and reinforce the vision and the mission of our regional center. So that being said, the Strategic Development Committee is kind of spearheading some of the discussions and potential action items to then apply to board meetings. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes for those who are on the board, but not on the Strategic Development Committee, if there was anything that really stood out to you that you want to make known at this point before Strategic Development meets again to further the conversation. I just wanted to give anybody the chance to give their 2 cents, how they felt about the presentation, and any key takeaways that they would really like to see the Strategic Development Committee take under consideration. And now I will stop. Because it really was quite amazing. And she did talk about a lot about how we should really be aligning our meetings with our strategic plan. And so that's something that we're definitely taking into consideration. How can we restructure the meetings so that it is aligned with our goals and our objectives? Does anybody else have any other ideas or thoughts? This one slide right here was of particular importance to me. So did I hear someone start and then I just cut you off? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, she also talked about condensing the discussions in board meetings. And she brought up the possibility, and it just seems amazingly, impossibly visionary, but the possibility of a 90-minute board meeting, which means that, and she brought this up, the utilization of a consent agenda to make everything that's repetitive, everything that really doesn't involve discussion or strategic thinking or discussions, to condense that so we get that out of the way. So we'll have the whole time left for strategic discussions.
I think that's a very good point. And that's one thing that I would love to see a little bit more maybe in these meetings is discussion. Because I think sometimes that gets a little bit pushed to not to the side, but it gets pushed back. And as we saw last month, Michelle couldn't start her presentation when we had actually scheduled it because there was so much other stuff to get through that probably a lot of that could be reduced to a consent agenda. Anybody else? Uh-oh, you're muted.
I want to say well said, Bruce, well said, Julie. And I thought actually we made some meaningful progress tonight. I think, Tim, you did a great job summarizing 5 contracts in a much shorter length of time than normally done. As an Executive Finance Committee, we've already been through them in full. So I thought, that was a nice starting win. So well done, Tim.
Well, yeah, Michelle, she gave a good presentation on the showing us how the board should how to start the meeting on time and stuff, right on time and everything. But for our board meeting tonight, it started right on time at 7:15, and I like that.
I agree. I agree. And I found it actually very helpful. Like as soon as, whoever is board president, currently me, I found it really helpful right away that Eric told me that we had a quorum. That was really helpful, so I could just go. Anyone else? Anyone who?
I just wanted
I
to
see.
point.
Oh, who was that?
Tina.
Okay, and then Richard, I saw your hand. So Tina, go ahead, and then Richard.
When you guys were talking, about the May 31st, I was trying to get a conversation in on it to let you guys know that I'm going to be there.
Great.
Yeah, it's going to be my first time being there on one of these things. So
wonderful.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that.
You're
Richard,
welcome.
did you want to add something?
I just something. We're being challenged for a Lisa of a story about life for organism. As recently as, do you remember what about the meeting strategist is coming up? Where practice or recently has not touched for this board meeting. And please be sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Before I turn things over to Jesse, I just wanted to make sure that all board members had a chance to weigh in on Michelle's presentation. Will be, this isn't going to be a one and done sort of discussion, either here or in strategic development. It's going to just be ongoing because the only thing that stays the same is that things change, and we want to constantly, evolve and refine what we're doing. So that's it for me.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to our executive director, Jesse.
Thank you, Julie. Good evening, everybody. Is my audio working okay? Okay, perfect. Nice to see everybody. I'm gonna share my screen. You're going to see a new format on my report. To follow up on Julie's comments, one of the areas that we were looking at is to see if me taking my report and putting it into a PowerPoint presentation, if that made any difference in terms of just streamlining and then also making it a little bit easier to navigate. So I said I would take it for a spin, so feel free to give feedback, but you'll see it in a different kind of format for this evening. Let me share my screen. And you do have it in your folder now, so it's in the folder. Can everybody see it? All right. And I think we're kind of on schedule, so this is fabulous. We're putting this in action this evening. So here is my executive director report. I started off with our mission statement just to give it a shout out. As you know, we approved our new mission, vision, and value statement. So I just wanted to highlight it as part of our strategic planning process that I think we're all really proud of, because I'm looking at everybody here, and I think most of us on this meeting this evening helped create this new mission statement. So I just see a lot of us here in our discussions into our actual board approved mission statement. So we're really trying to think of ways to carry this through as part of our everyday work, so it doesn't sit on the digital shelf. So we're promoting our new mission statement. Lots of activities happening around the state right now. I would say one of the biggest ones that we need to pay attention to is the developments as it relates to the master plan for developmental services. This is a committee with a lot of good stakeholder membership that is working really closely with California Health and Human Services, which is above the Department of Developmental Services, to transform our service system. To look at how do we make improvements, how do we make it better, how do we steer regional centers into our future. And so there's been a couple stakeholder meetings. The most recent one was in Los Angeles, right across the street from South Central Los Angeles Regional Center. Good representation. I had the opportunity to go in person, which I appreciated. And so we had, it was nice to kind of have different representation for the committees and for the public. Some key takeaways in this most recent meeting was the committee members were really engaged in in-depth conversations around defining and achieving equity across all diverse communities and how equity should inform and anchor the master plan. So there was a large discussion around really defining and talking about equality versus equity. There was a presentation done that I really appreciated. Some high-level positions at the state under Governor Newsom. We had the Chief Equity Officer for the California Health and Human Services talk about equality versus equity. We also had an opening statement by the Undersecretary. So it just kind of shows how important this project is to the state and also to the department working on this master plan. Nancy Bargmann was there, our very own director of the department. I highlighted a couple areas that she focused on. She went into, there was a lot of data. She couldn't get through all the data in there on all of her slides. There was so much enriching information, but she really honed in on looking at disparity data and the role of age and living situation and how that plays a role in expenditures. Looking at respite, which is an important service across our state. Nancy made reference to, in case the board wasn't aware of this, the department, DDS, entered into contract and agreement with Georgetown University to study the service access and equity grants to see, hey, we're putting all this money towards these projects for the past couple of years. Are they making a difference? Are they effective? Are there outcomes? And so a lot of the community has been patiently waiting for this report. It's now available to the public on the DDS website. And so that was discussed at this meeting. And some highlights was that from the report from Georgetown is that the department should consider focusing on fewer priorities and longer duration projects, which was interesting, and that there would be benefit from a consistent definition of equity. So when you look at the agenda for the meeting and kind of these takeaways from our reports, there is a need to have a better understanding and consensus around the use of equity versus equality. And the other area that was highlighted, you'll see this on another slide coming up, but this is a big, big win for our Hispanic, Latino, Latina community. We finally have the Lanterman Act published in Spanish. It's been a lot of years in the making, asking for this. So it's finally available. So it was announced live. Nancy had a couple physical copies. I couldn't get one, I tried to, but it was actual in person, which was so fantastic to see. And then that presentation ended with DDS talking about the future direction of data collection and their commitment to technology. So a lot of exciting stuff there. I see Elizabeth. Yeah, it's super exciting to finally have this much overdue. Next steps of the master plan, the committee members will be breaking into work groups. They've identified the 5 priorities so far. I learned being at the meeting that these can change. These aren't super finalized. This is just kind of the framework as of right now. And these are the 5 different areas that came up through the process as it relates to the master plan. Person-centered regional center services, ensuring that service systems are seamless, transparent, accountable, and data-driven service systems. That kind of ties into the second one. That was discussion around how these kind of tie together, some of them. Well-trained, stable workforces that provide person-centered services, and looking at new strategies to maximize the service system's resources. So these are still being looked at. They're still being, they still need to be defined, but it just gives you kind of a direction of where this master plan is heading. And I believe the next meeting is in June in Sacramento, I believe. Vendor community rally. This was covered by Chris and Susan, who did a fantastic job. I want to give recognition. Yvonne has done all of the heavy lifting on behalf of the center to support our providers on this. I just want to give recognition to Yvonne for all of the work here. And a big thank you to all the providers involved in making this happen. So we finally have the rally that we mentioned earlier. Please join us. We have Amy Westling from ARCA, the executive director, who's going to be joining us, which is really exciting. So we're going to have some good representation there to keep up the momentum, which is a direct reflection from the state informing us, and from ARCA. Please mobilize your local communities. Do everything you can between now and June 15th to make your voices be heard, to provide input. So this rally could not be more timely for to help support with the goal to make sure that our providers get the approximately $1 billion across the state rate implementation going that they much deserve, and not to delay it further. So we have a lot of good support here. The rally is going to be held outside of Senator Rubio's office. She gave full support for us to be there out of her office. We don't know if she's going to speak or not yet, but we did get the blessing from her. Yvonne's been in contact with her staff and the district team. So we got a lot of good momentum. So please join us. And if you can't, Yvonne recommended earlier, take the time to call the governor's office and just make sure that you're getting it in. We're trying to flood the importance. So just because other people are doing it, the more you can also really help support this initiative. So we're excited to see this come together. A shout out to Salvador, I think, who's here tonight with his team for service access and equity. San Gabe is hosting for the first time what's called an annual Enhanced Service Empowerment Conference, going to be hosted in Monrovia. We have funds from the department to increase language access and cultural competency for our families. And one area that Sal envisioned with his team was to pull the families together that are getting enhanced services with the regional center, which is that 1:40 required ratio, and bring people to a conference where they can share information, share resources. That'll be well represented tomorrow. This is occurring. I think registration is full, but it's just another way for San Gabe kind of thinking outside the box to kind of get feedback and bring people together. So we're excited to see that happen tomorrow. And then a really cool opportunity I'm excited about, something I wasn't familiar with before. I got an invite from the department. It's called the 2024 Partnerships for Wellbeing Institute. And what I learned about it is that it's a partnership with several state entities, the California Department of Social Services, Department of Healthcare, DDS, Department of Education, Office of Youth, Community Restoration, with UC Davis being a partner, kind of taking the lead in this process with the System of Care Partners. So I've been invited by the department to do an opening at the conference with other directors. And then I just learned this afternoon that I'll be introducing the Orange County Child Welfare Director. So just to have a platform and a presence, I think is really exciting. And the spirit of just kind of relationships and partnerships, and for us to be there, we're excited about. So that'll be coming up in June. Legislative information may revise. This is the other important area in our service system. We're tracking the May revise really carefully. This is going to be the budget that gets signed into action by the governor here shortly. I have a couple slides on the May revise. The service provider rate delay is still unchanged, so that's why our rally is so timely. And I wanted to highlight 4 new reductions that are kind of being looked at. These are not finalized, but these are 4 areas that are been pulled out by legislators to review. And one is possible reductions or cuts as it relates to these 4 areas: tribal engagement for early start. There's a proposal to reduce that funding. Health and safety waiver assistance. Regional centers were given funding, I think a year or 2 ago, going back, to help families apply and support the health and safety waiver process. And so that is being looked at. I have to clarify, this does not impact health and safety waivers at Regional Center for our service providers. We can still authorize them, we can still put them in place. What that means is that we're able to provide assistance to providers and look at cost and get higher rates at different times when there's certain thresholds that are met. But this is a really specific one as related to working in underserved communities. And then there was 2 areas also in addition, which is the direct support staff internship program. There's some unspent monies that haven't been utilized that the department's looking at how to reallocate. And then emergency preparedness resources. So looking at ongoing reduction of money for supplies and information materials. And it's not towards regional center positions because we get funding for an emergency management coordinator. This is not related to the staffing position, it's just towards information and resources. Indicator that the state's looking at cost saving measures. Could be a good sign for us if they're looking at other alternative ways to make up money for their service provider rate delay, but it's too early to tell at this point. There was an information hearing today, this morning. I thought this was really exciting for us as a system, even despite the outcome, which we wanted to be positive. Assemblymember Arugula discussed the history of the rate increase at this hearing, expressed his concern with delaying the rate increase and the broader impact on the stability of the system. That's a huge milestone for us as a system to have an assembly member make that kind of comment at an informational hearing. So our advocacy is working. The fact that we have this going, followed up by another assembly member when that the rate delay has added problems of costing the service system federal matching funds and looking at the challenges around federal matching. And then we had ARCA there expressing their opposition to the rate delay. So the turnout is just significant. And there's a few more unknowns regarding next steps as it relates to the hearing process. But what we do know is that a budget must be voted on by June 15, 2024. So again, our rally is super timely as this process continues. And just want to thank everybody for the continued advocacy because we can't do this work without our service providers. There's no way. So we got to do everything we can for them. I mentioned earlier, the Lanterman Act is now available in Spanish. So we want to get that its own platform. 2 directives I want to cover with everybody this evening. We have direction from the department. The intermediate care facilities are experiencing a lot of challenges because they were required to switch over to medical managed care earlier of the year. And it's caused significant hardship for our ICF providers, not getting payments, not getting timely payments to operate. And so the department has allowed regional centers to do what they call lag funding. Basically, we give the money to support, stabilize, and then they have 15 days to pay us back when they get their payment in. So that was supposed to end, was it through June, Tim? Or through June 30th, 2024. And then we learned today that it's going to be extended till the end of the year. So a really good thing for our ICF providers. There's a little bit of, I think we have to update the agreement form with them. So there's some administrative work. It is a significant workload impact on Tim and the community service division, but we have our systems in place. It's just kind of taking them offline from other duties, but it's the right thing to do. We got to get it. It's just a lot of administrative things that we got to manage. So I just want to give a shout out to Tim and the team for all the administrative supports. And I want to recognize how challenging this has been. If you talk to any ICF provider, they're going to talk about how challenging this has been. And so we've been trying to do as much support as we can in this difficult time, but this is a good thing, the fact that it's getting extended till the end of the year. So we're really happy that this went through. And the last directive I had for everybody today was related to Senate Bill 616. This is really specific to rate adjustments for employee sick leave. So just giving a little bit of background on the law that changed where entitles employees who work on or after January 1st, 2024 to accrue 40 hours or 5 days of sick leave or paid time off. So that increased the requirements there, which is a good thing for employees, also creates a fiscal impact on providers. And so we're now seeing some direction there on how we can help support providers on looking at adjusting their rates for this And the directive we received, I think it just came in recently here. It gives us direction on how to address providers in different rate models. So depending on how they're vendored, there's certain actions that we need to take. And so we're going to be supporting our providers and doing that as quickly as we can. So a lot of good movement there. And then I'm going to bring this home here in my last few slides with some statistics. We are currently at the end of April, we have 522 authorized positions. So we are growing at a really fast rate, which is exciting. We have 19 vacancies that we're looking at filling. A lot of those are growth positions. We've added a couple of new positions you'll see on here. Earlier this evening, Daniela made an announcement at Individuals Served and Families Advisory Committee that we have offered the job of Associate Director of Adult and Residential to Zoraida Preciado, who's the interim director. She's been with us for a number of years. We're so pleased, and she's replacing Trisha Vanucci, who was with us for over 40 years, who just had her retirement. So we did an extensive search internally and externally, and we made the announcement formally today. So you'll probably have the opportunity to meet Zoraida. She reports to Daniela as part of the member of our executive team. So we're super excited for Zoraida to join the team officially. Stats as of end of April, we were serving 17,015 individuals. So we crossed the 17,000 threshold. So we're growing in numbers there. And then I wanted to highlight in the period of 1 month of April, we received 259 new referrals for our early start. So the team, I don't know how they're keeping up with all of the movement in there, but it's significant. They're a shout out to the admissions team. They're bringing people in, which is huge, and we're excited. And then we're also doing staffing projections to support the growth at these large numbers. And then in Lanterman, you can see that we received 65 new referrals. So really, really exciting to see if we ever see early start Lanterman admissions as high. That means people are getting into our system. So it's a fantastic thing. And my last slide for this evening is on self-determination. And we have 175 participants active in the program. And that was a difference from the last period of 10 new participants. So that's a lot there too. So I want to recognize, Yanetta was here earlier, Yanetta and Jesse Romero, fantastic managers doing a really good job managing a really complex program that is so important to us. And those numbers are continuing to increase. And I think it's because of our structure we have and the amount of outreach we're doing. We're bringing information to people about SDP and we're promoting it. And so just want to recognize all the great work under Sal's leadership for self-determination. And that completes my board report for this evening. Any questions for me?
I don't have a question, but I would have to say that new format is pretty great. Board members, what do you think? It's easy on the eyes, isn't it? Yeah. Nice thumbs up from Trish and Philip. Okay. All right. In our other board and community announcements, I was supposed to have made some time for Sal and I forgot. So now I'm calling upon Sal for what he needs to let us know.
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, board members and community members for having me this evening. Just real quick, I wanted to share, if I could please request some time for the June meeting. The reason for the request is for me to make a presentation on our performance contract 2024-2025. And just to give you a quick update, we are going to be posting it onto our website in regards to a draft. So that way you as board members, community members could have access to the measures. And if there's any objectives you would like for you to incorporate into these measures, please let me know. That information will be on the website. You could email me and what measure would you like your objectives to be under? and we'll go ahead and incorporate that. Another thing I will be doing is on June 5th, I will be doing a presentation to our community based on this and getting some feedback from them. And I'll definitely be marketing this tomorrow during our enhanced workshop to our families, to these enhanced families, to really understand what are the measures, what are the objectives as they're continuing to get empowered with our information. And I wanted to make that presentation for the June 26th meeting. So if I could please get that space, I would really appreciate it if I could post that in for our community.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's definitely have that on our June agenda.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have some board or community announcements before we sign off? We're just little tiny bit over time, but that's okay. We're doing well. We're doing well. All right. Okay, not seeing or hearing anything. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our interpreters, our guests, staff, board members, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you, next month. Whew. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.